What's going on, fam? Welcome back to episode number 19 of The Boot Report. In today's episode, we are comparing the two best synthetic leather football boots on the market. We are going to go over all of your questions, and I'm going to tell you how to get, maintain, and measure your confidence. Let's jump into the weekly mindset section 1. So I want to go over a confidence framework that I developed over the last several months, I would say, and this is something that I'm really excited to share with you guys. So when you think about maintaining confidence, confidence is obviously something that's very ethereal. We've talked about this before. It's something that's really hard to define and it's really hard to grasp. It's like you know that you can train a right-footed instep pass 1,000 times and you're going to see the benefit of it as you continue to do those reps, right? But with confidence, it's a little more like, what are the things that go into confidence? What are the things that actually matter when it comes to confidence? And is confidence even something you should be measuring? I've heard a lot of sports psychologists say that you probably shouldn't be measuring confidence because it's something that's not really measurable in all that. It's all self-report, basically. There's no physiological differences between somebody who says they're confident and not confident. There's obviously a boost in testosterone or there's a boost in energy or something like that when you are feeling confident, I guess, but it's not like a biomechanical change. It's not like a biochemical change in your body. And so can you create that up here before a match, a training session, or just during the course of your process? So I want to go over two different frameworks. So the way that I decided to break this down, and this really makes sense to me, especially if you're trying to develop, obviously what gets measured gets improved. So if you are trying to lose weight, for example, you want to get a scale and you want to measure yourself every morning, either at the same time pretty much every day. It's something that you can consistently measure just to benchmark yourself for making decisions during the course of that day. That's the same with mindset, in my opinion. So you have a list of key performance indicators or KPIs, and all that means is just, here are some categories of things that I want to keep tabs on as I continue to go about my day, reminders for myself, things like that. So the way that I decided to break it down was, what are the habits that because confidence is so hard to nail down, what are the actual habits and actions both internally and externally in your world that you can do every day that for me in my career and for all the pros and the college players and the club players that I've talked to, what are those things that lead to having higher confidence over the course of time? So the external world, so this is all actions, is a framework called tempo, and the internal world, which is thoughts and feelings and emotions and thought processes, is a framework called prime. So you have prime and tempo. So I want to go over prime really quick. And this is something that you can really start to understand. If you really start to understand this framework, you start to get a really good understanding of what are the things that I actually should be thinking about and measuring myself on when it comes to confidence. So P stands for perspective, R stands for reframing, I stands for identity, M stands for metrics, and E stands for ego. So as an example, so this is the inner game of confidence. So the prime framework, training the mindset that keeps you in your prime, so to speak. So the P, perspective, this is staying grounded in the moment and seeing the bigger picture. So these are things like letting go of comparison, practicing gratitude, staying emotionally neutral, not too high, not too low, because if you get caught in those, it can get really dangerous. And also it just makes life less enjoyable, in my opinion. Removing the fear of missing out, or FOMO, not judging, or just preparing and acting. So those are some habits and some things you can measure yourself on in the P category, in the perspective category. For R, reframing, the ability to bounce back and mentally reset when things go sideways. So things like reset routine, which I've talked about before, mental reframing, the F-it response, which is like letting go mid-game. It's just like, okay, screw it. This thing happened and I'm just going to let it go because it doesn't matter anymore. Visualization, acceptance of failure and mistakes, coping planning. So preparing to fail, preparing to win, like I mentioned in last week's episode. and journaling as a mental reset. So these are all like reframing things you can do in your head. From an identity perspective, knowing who you are and trusting what you are doing. Or there's a really cool quote that I always used to put on my phone background that was, "You will succeed by believing in your abilities." And that fundamentally is the thesis of the identity portion of this confidence builder, which is knowing who you are, developing an alter ego, owning your greatness. I am not what I do. So it's separating your self-worth from your performance, taking extreme ownership, knowing your role in the team, having a service mindset, and having agency, recognizing your own power to choose. M for metrics, so building clarity and structures around your mental growth. So this is things like goal setting and reverse engineering those goals, mental scorecard, which you can actually use these prime and tempo frameworks as your scorecards, basically. And I'll explain that in a little bit. Journaling for progress, reflection, studying leadership, tracking mindset patterns like physical training, all those things are really great for the metrics category. And then ego. So mastering your emotions and keeping your confidence stable. These are things like positive and constructive inner voices, believing in your abilities, acceptance without attachment to outcomes, emotional regulation, self-esteem built from values and not validation, and being a strong teammate. So the prime framework is really based upon training your mindset as best as you can. And I mentioned the KPIs. So it's like a mental scorecard, basically. And this is an idea that I got from Dr. Cassidy Preston, who I actually worked with for many years. I still work with him today, although in slightly different capacity. He is a sports psychologist, though, a PhD. And the mental scorecard is essentially this concept of, just in the same way that you write down goals and aspirations and you track yourself, maybe you want to, have $1,000 in your bank account, or you want to have a new car someday, or you want to go on a certain number of dates in order to meet the love of your life. Like whatever that metric is, those are the things that you want to be keeping track of and scoring, right? I mentioned the losing weight thing. I could go and measure myself every day, write it all down, and I can see the pattern of where that thing is being measured. This works an amazing amount the same way. That's kind of an awkward sentence. It works the same way for your mental performance training. So for mental performance, and this is something that I did during my career, as well as what I still do now, is I use this now with my own developed frameworks, because these are what work for me, the prime framework and the tempo framework. Those two, I can now measure myself on the categories. So if we think about just in terms of categories, although I mentioned a ton of examples in each one, you can look at the prime category as, how did I do with being present and having perspective today? The R, that's the P. R, reset and reframe. How was I bouncing back from mistakes and emotional agility? How was I able to navigate difficult situations? Resetting and reframing. The I, my identity and my inner belief. How was that today? Did I show up like I wanted to? Did I show up like the person I want to be? M, mindful goals and metrics. So did I track well? And obviously part of that is doing this scorecard. And then ego management and emotional control, E. So did I regulate my emotions? Did I manage that internal tension? Did I reduce the negative self-talk? And did I boost that positive internal talk? All of those things. And that's just 5 numbers. You could rate yourself out of 100. And so you say, I was a 98 out of 100 today on resetting and reframing, but I was like a 72 on presence and perspective. And being able to have that sort of journal over the course of time. If I have on my iPad, I've got like a 900-page document that's basically every day for the last 4 years of my professional career, or 3 years of my professional career when I started working with Dr. Cassidy Preston, of every single training session, every single game, I was measuring myself on something a little bit different that he and I had come up with. But this is now sort of the one that I go to, because this is what I really enjoy and what really makes sense to me and what I've found helpful. So that's the prime framework. I'll really quickly go over tempo without any examples, just because I don't want to go too far into it. Although if you guys are interested in either learning more about the information, the Pro Blueprint program will be launching very, very soon. If you are interested in a month of free coaching, so this is 4 30-minute meetings over the course of a month, You guys can sign up via the link down below, and I will, we can set up a 15-minute call just to see where you're at, what your problem points are, and then go forward with a month of free coaching before the Pro Blueprint comes around. So if you guys are interested, I would really like to give that to you guys, and anybody who's interested, just go to the link below to find out more about that stuff. So the tempo framework, again, tempo framework is what you do, how you train, the environment you build. It's all external world. So prime is internal world, tempo is external world. The tempo categories, T stands for training habits. So these are things like skill execution and reps, very basic stuff. Like I was talking about before, 1,000 inside foot passes is going to lead you to not only being more confident, obviously, which is the goal of this framework, but also in a skill that you're trying to develop. E stands for environment and people. This is one of the most important things that you can evaluate and measure and improve over the course of your footballing career. It's who you're surrounding yourself with, both on and off the pitch. M stands for match and game day behaviors, so visible on-pitch actions. What are the things that you do on pitch that you also did in training sessions? How did you show up on match day, etc.? P stands for physical performance support. So that means off-pitch body management, your recovery systems, the way that you do nutrition, the way that you sleep, the social habits that you have. Are you seeing family and or friends? What are those off-pitch habits and on-pitch habits? But what does that physical performance support look like? Your gym work, all that. And then O stands for opportunities and exposure. So what are you doing every day to not only manage external pressure, but also get yourself into areas or new teams or networking? All of that stuff goes into the O category. So tempo is a really cool way of evaluating, hey, if I'm a business owner and I have a YouTube channel and I have a consulting business or whatever, and I'm not even playing soccer anymore, what are the things that I'm doing every day that go into those categories? And I am actually able to apply. These categories were meant for footballers in mind, but even as a business owner now, I look at this and I go, okay, my training habits. Am I getting in front of camera more often? Am I putting in those reps of the things that I want to accomplish? Am I writing more? Because that's something that I really want. I want to write a book at some point about my experiences playing professionally, coming from a lower level Division III school and going to the pro game, winning a national title, all those things, and all the sports performance stuff that I've learned. Environment and people, that's an easy one. Who am I surrounding myself with? Am I getting in the room with people who are better than me, who are smarter than me, in order for me to be motivated to improve, etc.? And you get what I'm saying. So you can really apply this both on and off the pitch, but I love these two frameworks for, well, I do because I created them, so it's a little narcissistic. However, I do think that it is something that will be helpful both in your life and in your footballing career. So those are the prime and the tempo frameworks. So why does this really matter? The prime and the tempo frameworks are awesome because this is a great starting point for creating your confidence scorecard. So we circle back to what we first mentioned, which was how do you build confidence? How do you maintain confidence? And how do you exist just in a confident state? A lot of people will meet me. A lot of people see me online and they say, man, you're so well-spoken. You do these things really well and you're able to talk in front of people with no issues. You have confidence, even if you have never done this thing before. And it's literally just down to training. Sure, maybe I'm lucky in that some genetic part of my brain and my body is I'm wired to be more leadership oriented and more service oriented as a leader. However, there's a lot of training, years and years and years and years and years of training my brain and my soul and my heart, whatever you want to put into that camp and into that equation, that essentially allows me to be confident on a very, very regular basis, if not like 95% of the time. My goal now, when I'm evaluating myself, anything under a 90 usually on a day is like not a good day for me. Like I honestly evaluate myself on, okay, if I'm an 88 today, or if I'm, and yes, some of these numbers are a little arbitrary. I totally understand, but the mental exercise is there. So, if I'm, let's say I'm in the studio and I'm doing a bunch of deep work, and maybe that day I get to 5 p.m. and I'm like, man, I haven't surrounded myself with anybody. So I'm going to evaluate myself, but I really want to be over 90 that day. I'll go and hang out with my wife for several hours, or I'll go phone a friend and be like, yo, let's go quick out to dinner and hang out and surround myself with good people. And those are the things that are daily habits, not only in my personal life, but also I used on the pitch, that really help boost that confidence over time. And again, you want to get to the point where the confidence isn't actually the goal. The confidence is a process. And that is the main thesis for this section. So that is the weekly mindset. I hope that helped. Again, if you're interested in a free month of coaching, head down to the link down below and sign up for a 15-minute, just like quick, I know discovery call is such like a weird thing, but it is basically, I just want to know, what are your problem areas? How can I best serve you over the course of a month? And we'll get going with 2 hours of free coaching. So yeah, let's rock and roll. All right, section 2, boot talk. Now, as I said in the intro, we are going to go over the weekly boot comparison. Now, I didn't put up a poll this week because I got to be honest, personal life shit kind of hit the fan. Some things were happening. Everything's okay. Everything's going to be okay. But it just was a lot for me. And so I was focusing more on the writing and the sort of deep work side of things and what I was doing in life. So I didn't put up a whole lot of Instagram content this week. So thank you for your patience there. Things happen. And so I decided, because the new Tekela is excellent, and also because the X-Fly Pro 3 is really excellent, and X-Fly 6 will come in at some point with the silky wrap upper, I wanted to give an opportunity for both of these brands to get in front of camera and really discover which one actually is better. Now, both of these boots, I want to just say straight out of the gate, they are both unbelievably fantastic. Honestly, there's a couple things that I'd change about each boot, but for the most part, these are the kind of football boots that I hope we get from other big brands, namely Adidas, Nike, and Puma, that make me, for a maybe 60% of the training session, forget that I don't have a leather boot on, which is pretty fantastic. So we are going to do the comparison. We're going to evaluate sole plate, upper, heel, comfort, performance, design, lace area, X factor per usual. And we are going to start with the sole plate. Now, this one is, I think, going to be a little bit tough because I think from a performance perspective, you obviously have both of the studs basically being conical. Obviously on the Tekela, you've got those really interesting TPU rim studs that come from a lacrosse cleat. You can go watch my full review on these ones or on the Tekela V4 Plus, because it's basically the same sole plate. On more information on that, if you didn't know that they came from a lacrosse cleat. Whereas the cord out sort of center of this stud pattern on the X-Fly Pro 3 is very much a neutral but aggressive stud pattern. I love these studs. X-Fly 5 has a very similar vibe to it as well. And despite the fact that this new updated sole plate from the Tekela is very, very nice, it's very responsive and snappy. Boots are dirty because I wore them yesterday. And I am going to take the sole plate from the X-Fly Pro 3. I just think it's a little bit more balanced and it has a little bit more responsiveness and rock to it. So it really propulses you forward, makes you feel incredibly light on your toes and athletic. The upper material, I think this is going to be an interesting one. Now, I'm going to go with kind of the way that I feel about both. Now, I love leather football boots, obviously. I love the X-Fly Pro 3. I think it's a fantastic upper. This silky wrap tech is wonderful. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I'm actually going to give the upper material to the Tekela. I think that this dynamic touch tech material is unbelievable, and it's upgraded from the 442 Elite, which is awesome. This feels more robust. It feels like a one-piece, incredibly soft leather upper. Yes, it does still feel a little bit more synthetic-y-ish than the X-Fly Pro 3 upper from the silky wrap. Part of that could be because the stitching pattern and everything is identical compared to the X-Fly Pro 2, which was leather. And so you still have kind of that same tactile feel on feet, whereas this one is a totally new material for the brand, other than the 442, obviously. And it's a departure from the hypoknit upper that the V4 Plus was. And so this just feels incredibly soft, incredibly unique. It wraps your foot better than I think most synthetics. In fact, probably every other synthetic on the market does. You throw your feet in these, and even for a wide-footed player like myself, I go up half a size just for context for the Tekela to get the best fit. that's across all the New Balance boots. So I go up half a size in the normal D width, and I do need a tiny bit of break-in time here per usual. But for the most part, these are absolutely sensationally comfortable. This upper is ridiculous. Heel area, that's a pretty easy one. Asics always has the best heel areas on the market. Now that Mizuno is doing this suede material in the Morelia too, they are coming for blood a little bit, it seems like, which is awesome. I love that because for a very long time, it was not even a question in my mind that Asics had the best heel areas. X-Fly 5, one of the best on the market, one of the best ever. X-Fly Pro 3, little bit less enjoyable than the X-Fly 5. But again, that I'm being critical. This is one of the best heel areas on the market, period, regardless of brand. So heel area pretty easily goes to the X-Fly 5. Although, what I will say is, and you guys will notice this in the Tekela review that I just released last week as well, this heel area is mightily improved. It is no longer creating blister areas, hot spots. They've really done a good job, and I think done wonders to the shape and just the contouring of the heel. And the heel liner on here is excellent as well. So that's a really, really good sign from New Balance. The heel area no longer, I feel, on the V5 is a hindrance to the playing experience that is already so good. And that's the one thing that tears it down. That's the one thing that keeps players from wearing them. This is not that anymore. This is one of the most complete New Balance packages I think we've ever had in their lineup, which is amazing. Now, from a comfort perspective, I know this is going to be crazy sacrilege, but I actually think the Tekela is more comfortable. I think the X-Fly Pro 3 is immensely comfortable as well. There's just something about this dynamic touch tech upper that I think is remarkable. It is so comfortable. There's zero hot spots anywhere. The tapering on the toe is perfect in my opinion. And if you had higher volume toes, this dynamic touch tech upper is soft enough that it's really not going to be an issue for anybody. This is one of the most comfortable football boots, I think, that isn't leather straight out of the box in a really, really long time. Knit material boots are obviously pretty comfy for the most part, but a lot of those will either be grip knit, so it's got some sort of structure, or it'll be a knit material that isn't exposed, so it has a polyurethane coating on it, which makes it stiff until you break it in. Something like a Skechers SKX, for example. This, on the other hand, is one of the most complete and soft packages, but I'm still giving, so comfort obviously goes to this one. Now, from a performance perspective, this one is kind of tough because I think from an aggressiveness standpoint, obviously the lateral stability you get with the Tekela is objectively better than sort of the lateral turning and stability, but I just think the snappiness of the sole plate, the standard U-throat tongue with the runner's knot, it gives you more adjustability, more ability to kind of tie your laces as tight as you want them, and the shape and the feel of this boot is so well constructed and executed that from a performance perspective, although I may enjoy wearing the Tekela slightly more, I think the X-Fly Pro 3 is just going to be objectively better from a performance perspective just because of the deeper lacing system, standard U-throat tongue, the better heel area, etc., and the sole plate that's objectively, in my opinion, a lot more snappy than the Tekela is. So that goes to the Pro 3. From a design perspective, I do really like the new Tekela. I think it does have a very sleek and kind of nice design. This colorway, again, as I mentioned in my initial review, isn't really my favorite. So it's one of those things that the new colorways are a lot better. So that's a good thing. I'm glad. The royal blue colorway from last week's episode is really pretty, I think. But I'd like to see more colorways. A mate of mine just got the white and gold ones, which are really cool. So it's a nice looking silo, but I got to give it to the X-Fly Pro 3. I just think this type of silo, whether it's the X-Fly 5, the Morelia Neo 4, the X-Fly Pro 3, any of this style of football boot to me just looks clean. It looks elegant. It looks classic. X-Fly 6 that's coming out or that has come out, but is going to be in the studio very soon. those are just very clean looking. And Asics always does a really nice job with colorways as well. So design goes to the Pro 3. Lace area, which we talked about before, this is going to be a quick one. Lace area goes to the X-Fly Pro 3. I think a standard U-throat tongue, particularly the way Asics does it with these really nice 4 different lace loops, are sensational. So tongue doesn't move side to side when you're playing in it, even aggressively or in a game-like situation. And they've got suede on the bottom of the tongue. It's a long, wide, deep lacing system. Definitely crushes, in my opinion. Not to say that the monosock construction isn't a bad thing, because it's really comfortable, as I've mentioned many times in this comparison already. However, standard U-throat tongue's pretty much going to win every time for me, just because it is just more adjustable for more people. Then the X Factor. I'm actually giving the X Factor to the Tekela. Although the Silky Wrap was one of the first leather-like or leatherette, fake leather materials that really blew me out of the water, I think this new offering from New Balance is something that's actually going to rival the Predator, the Phantom 6, and the new SKX, which we will, which I actually have with me, so we'll get into in just a minute. But this is a boot that has something unique that those other boots don't, and that is an obnoxious amount of comfort straight out of the box. These are so soft. I've only worn these twice now, one for the review and then one for some short form content, but they are ridiculously soft, like so ridiculous. So this is the X Factor for me, on top of the fact that they have a really unique sole plate. I know it's not new, but at the same time, I think it's really, really cool. So how does that put us? So Pro 3 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means Tekela has 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, so 5-3. Okay, so there you go. X-Fly Pro 3 for the win. That's probably not that surprising, but I do think that if I'm going to play a match scenario right now, I might actually pick the Tekela. Although I think the X-Fly Pro 3 is probably a better product in a lot of ways from an objective perspective. I just think that Tekela is such a unique playing experience, and that dynamic touch tech upper is absolutely ridiculous. So very, very cool comparison, and it makes me really excited. I know we've talked about leather in the last several episodes of the Boot Report. I do think this is a situation where we are starting to see what could happen with leather football boots. It's like the same, I know I always bring it back to the car industry, but that's just, I'm a huge petrol head. But when people started creating electric cars, like the Nissan Leaf was an absolute tragedy of a electric car, but it got people from A to B and it kind of worked and it was fine. That's the same as I think a lot of brands are in that position right now. They're in the Nissan Leaf of the car world, right? It's Fly Touch Plus from Nike. Kind of a shitty material, not really all that comfortable, but it's like the beginning of the fake leather stuff because they're moving away from K leather. Whereas I think now, if you get it, you get it. These are like the Rimac Nevera of synthetic leather football boots. These are like the Rivian R1Ts and R1Ss. Like these are the Lucid Air Sapphires. Like these are the cream of the crop when it comes to fake leather football boots that are supposed to feel like leather. And that's where I think both of those boots, sensational options. If you like the Tekela better, that's super understandable. I think the Tekela is excellent. If you're looking for an X-Fly Pro 3, the best place that I can always recommend, who I'm not sponsored by, but I do all sorts of stuff with them from they send boots out sometimes and etc., is Tokyo Football. And I recommend them all the time for anything Asics that you can't get in other countries. So things like X-Fly Pro 3 and the new X-Fly 6. So Tokyo Football is actually sending me the X-Fly 6, which is very nice of them. Hashtag Wear Your Boots Wednesday. Okay, so this was a really, as I mentioned, last week was a bit of a shitstorm for many, many reasons. And the hashtag Wear Your Boots Wednesday winner, I want to give a couple shout outs because there were some really cool boots. Just because he's a homie of mine, Texas Clit Collector had an awesome pair of the F50 Adi Zero leathers in the white and silver. It's one of the most beautiful football boots on the planet, in my opinion. He had one of those, but the winner was actually something that wasn't all that unique necessarily, but it very much fit in the thesis of my vision for the brand and the podcast, which is you want to wear your football boots, right? It's Wear Your Boots Wednesday. And the reason why I'm I mentioned last week being really shitty is just because for some reason I reposted everybody's, but went back into the story archives and none of those posts are there. So I actually don't have photos of this anymore, which is really annoying and weird. And I don't know what happened. Maybe it was completely user error, I'm assuming. So either I deleted them before they went into the archive or something happened. But bottom line is it was a picture of obviously a follower of the channel and my Instagram, and he had a pair of GX1s in the white grip knit with the light blue back and the purple accent. It's one of my favorite colors. I actually still have a pair of those that are very, very used. And the reason why I love this photo was because it was just him in the boots. The boots were absolutely filthy, and he was playing on a pretty muddy, firm ground pitch. And I just think that is, you took a pair of boots that's really beautiful, really nice looking, great colorway, and also white for the most part, onto a pitch that probably could have used soft ground boots. And I just love that. I think that is the definition of hashtag Wear Your Boots Wednesday. So congratulations. You know who you are. It was a GX1s, and I apologize. I don't have that photo anymore. Things got away from me, and I couldn't figure out how the archive wasn't showing all of the stories that I had already posted. Anyway, weird technology thing. It happens. Now we're going to move on to performance breakdowns. Okay, so this is going to be probably very sad for a lot of you, and this is going to be a very short segment that I will explain in a video that I will be posting next week. So the 1 month review videos, I know several months ago now, I basically mentioned that they were coming back. I was very excited about it. Unfortunately, I can't make that happen. And the reason for that is I am going to be switching gears from a content perspective to something that I feel like I am uniquely good at. Do I think I'm really good at the football boot stuff? Do I think I'm one of the best? Yes, I have that confidence in me. However, I think I am best. I am of service to you all the best in a different capacity, which is working on the athlete branding and mental performance game. That is the stuff that I feel really strongly about. And although I have a massive passion for boots and I have a absolute obsession with collecting stuff and getting really, really cool football boots in, it's not something that I feasibly and physically can do for a long period of time. I'll explain more in the video, but basically over the next month or two, I will be shifting all of my content away from football boots, yes, believe it or not, to mental performance training, athlete branding, how to stand out from a crowd, how to get to your next level, like we talked about in the weekly mindset section, how to get confidence. And this coaching offer that I mentioned earlier in the podcast is the start of my coaching program. And so this is something that I feel really strongly about. I am so excited to get going on this. I've had so many amazing conversations already with some of you guys who have been kind of early adopters of this coaching. And so from a performance perspective, I will not be doing 1 month reviews anymore and really boot content and sort of moving away from that. So my passion, yes, is football boots, but I think my calling and the thing that I really feel like I'm moved towards and I get really excited about is working with current and former players and working with professionals, especially in the athletic space, building their personal brands. And I don't mean being an influencer, but building their personal brands, which is to say building their reputation, building their mental frameworks and their strengths and playing to their strengths and doing all the things that are going to make them more successful in their on and off the pitch. So those are the things that I'm just beyond excited about. So there you go. There you have it. Dropping an absolute bomb in this episode. Holy cow. So there it is. I didn't sort of know how I was going to go with this section, but there it is. All right. Massive changes coming to the channel, but I appreciate you all for being here on this football boot journey. And obviously through the vlog, you know, this is what I want to teach, which is personal branding is about who you are, not what you do. And as you can see from my channel, if you go back to the earliest videos that I still have on there, I'm not going to delete anything. I have shifted gears a couple times. You know, I've gone from the training videos to the day in the life video, you know, vlogs only. And then there were game analysis videos and then boot content and all that stuff. And the next phase for me is this mental performance coaching and branding stuff. And I am beyond excited. So that is that's just like, oh, I'm stoked. So next we move on to pro and retail models. Lamine Yamal was seen wearing the Laceless F50 Prestige 10 boots. And this is really interesting because his boots seem to be the Hybrid Touch 2.0 upper from the actual Messi F50. He's not just wearing a laceless repainted version of the normal F50 laceless, which is really cool. I think this is a boot that we will not see probably in real life. The Lamine Yamal pink and white, like massively, massively rare pink and white ones that launched about a month ago now. Those ones were, I think, just a reskinned F50 laceless. They were it's like a standard fiber touch upper, the whole 9 yards. These ones, on the other hand, at least from photos, look like he's wearing a laceless version of Messi's football boots, which is pretty cool. I would be interested to see what a hybrid touch upper laceless football boot would be like. The thing that I would be most cautious about is because it's hybrid touch, it's going to stretch a lot more than the fiber touch upper does, which doesn't stretch. And so the fiber touch upper allows you to do a laceless football boot and have more lockdown than, say, the Predator laceless, which is hybrid touch. Like it would be almost like a Predator laceless boot, just without all the grips. So really interesting that he's getting those. That is somebody, now that he's been announced, I think is the new number 10 for Barcelona. I'm fairly certain that he will start getting, I mean, we've already seen him get his own custom boots, and he's now wearing Messi's boots as probably a promo for the new number 10. I would imagine we're going to start seeing him in his own, just like Mbappe gets his own boots for the Superfly. Lamine Yamal will probably, especially if he continues on the same trajectory as far as playing goes, we will see some more custom boots from him. Not necessarily in the same way that Messi's custom boots came to market with a totally different material, but I'm imagining colorways for sure. All right, section 3. Market report. Now, this market report, we are going to go over some latest colorway drops. And I want to go through a couple of the drops that have happened this week, starting off with the Puma Eclipse pack. Now, this is insane that Puma just came out with a pack last week. And so it's absolutely mind blowing to me that they've just come out with a blackout pack. Yes, Nike did it 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Adidas, we're going to get into their stealth pack in just a second. Puma had to come out with another blackout pack. As much as I think the Puma blackout pack actually looks like not bad, I think that whole Eclipse pack actually, is not bad. It's, a little bit of accent mark colors, pretty sweet. A little bit of green here, a little bit of aqua blue, etc. I don't know, man. Puma's just not getting the vibe, I don't think. I think they're trying too much. I think they're doing too much with the colorway perspective, and we've talked about it before. It's just really not where I think it needs to be and where they need to be. And I think they need to be focusing less on, like, why spend money doing new colorways when your boots are the bottom of the rung as far as, like, in every category. Future 8 is abysmal. Ultra is good, but people still choose F50 even though it's not as good. That's a problem. And then King, no one's buying. So it's like, focus on R&D on the actual product, not the colorway. Then we got the Adidas Electric Stealth Pack. So this one, Electric Stealth Pack, and the Electric Stealth Pack is okay. Although what's funny is the Predator looks identical to the special edition one. Is it Stormzy? Is that who they did? The Murky FC one, or the murky, whatever it was. It looks, it's black with those electric yellow green, like electric yellow green color and the silver accents. And it's like the same boot basically, just minus the cool graffiti logoing on it. It's like, okay, if you want a pair of murky Preds, then just go buy the electric shadow pack. I don't know. It's cool. The colorway looks really good. But overall, again, blackout packs, I kind of wish we were still in an era where they, instead of making them, like if you're going to make a blackout or a whiteout pack, don't fluff it up because you think it needs extra color with these accent colors. It's my opinion that although I'm a fan of a whiteout boot with an accent color, those look great, but that's not a whiteout pack. A whiteout pack is like completely white or complete. It's like what it's what Nike used to do with the Academy packs. Make it so dark or matte black or whatever that it really doesn't, like you can't see any of there is no other colors other than I think Superfly Academy packs from 2014, 15. Maybe the studs were like electric green, but even then it's like the rest of the boot when a player is standing on a pitch, totally blackout. That's what they should be. So don't make the Eclipse, and now they're coming up with all these different names for it. Like the whole point of a blackout pack is so that it's all black. It's not black with accent color. I don't know. That's my own thing. Then we got Mizuno Shadow Gem, which again, Shadow Gem, but they weren't trying to make a blackout pack. They were making a black and red pack. And these look fantastic. So we only got the AG and the FG versions of the Beta and the Morelia 2. So it was only 2 of their 4 silos. The Neo 4 Beta and the Morelia 2, both of which look absolutely fantastic. I don't really want them for my own collection just because I don't think they're not really my vibe, and I really, really loved the Ruby pack, which you can see right there. That's obviously a Morelia Neo 4, but that Ruby pack is like my vibe. I love the black and red, but I'm more of the solid, brighter color with the white accent. Or if they're going to do a blackout boot, just do a fully blackout boot like the Innovation pack was, which is a super, super sick way to go. So those are really, really cool. And I think they sold out pretty quickly. Then we also got the Under Armour QR code pack. So this is the Magnetico 5, the updated version, and then the Shadow 3. Now we've seen the Shadow 3 on Hakimi's feet for 2 weeks now, like properly 2 or 3 weeks now. And it's pretty cool. It's like the Tiempo 8 glitch color, or not the glitch color. Well, you know what I'm talking about. It was like a kind of like a QR code colorway, but it was like, was it the Tiempo 8? Hold on. Tiempo 8 glitch. Yeah, maybe it was called the glitch. Oh, it was called the Dazzle Camo. That's what it was called. Dazzle Camo. So the Tiempo 8 Dazzle Camo, all these colorways are whatever. So Dazzle Camo, very, very similar to that in terms of it being sort of this white and black digi camo is what I think, speaking of Texas Cleat Collector, Justin, that's what Justin said on his recent podcast. So yeah, the sort of like the digi camo. I think these look actually kind of cool. They're not going to be, you can find them for like free 95 on probably at Ross in like 9 days. Because the colorway is not going to be that sought after. However, I think it looks kind of cool, and I really would love to review the Magnetico 5, but we will see how that goes with the timing of everything. So it depends. Okay, so new in the shop now. So there's 2 boots that I want to go over. I have Skechers SKX 2.0 and the F50 Plus. Now, a couple first impression thoughts. I saw the SKX a while ago because I actually work with Skechers on a few things. So I was able to see these boots quite a while ago. And this, dude, it's so much lighter. It's got more, like way more responsiveness in the sole plate, even though the sole plate and the outsole, well, the outsole is the exact same and the midsole, I think, are also the same. They have, same design, but they've taken weight out. They've made it more responsive. This upper is absolutely fantastic. I haven't even had them on feet yet, but I actually think they look really cool as well. So good job, Skechers. This is a massive update in my opinion. This boot feels like if people, for whatever stupid reason, weren't paying attention to the Razor because of the Skechers name, the Razor is an excellent football boot, like an excellent football boot. It was in my top 10 of the year last year. It was really good. It still is really good. I don't have any in, yeah, no. But the Razor is an excellent product, and this one is like, huge fan. Huge fan. But I haven't even tried it on yet, so stay tuned for that review. Then we have the F50 Plus, and this, although this looks kind of wacky and kind of ridiculous, and there's so much going on here as far as the colorway goes, which we've already seen, which is really annoying. I wish they would have just done something more interesting. However, I am really, really proud and happy, and I applaud Adidas for doing something like this. They've taken the advice of consumers who said, and reviewers, I'm sure, like myself and Jay and Josh and Boot Wizard and everybody else, right? Like all these people being like, hey, dude, if you're going to create the best performing speed boot, you can't make it laceless, dumbass. Like that's, come on. And also it was the same material, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know who said this, but this is not my original idea, but quite a few people were saying this feels like a combination of the Crazy Fast Plus, which I reviewed and did like 1 month reviews on and actually enjoyed. They were very thin. It's like that one and the standard F50 had a baby, and then they slapped the sole plate on from the F50 Plus. I think I kind of see it, especially with this updated Fiber Touch upper. It's still Fiber Touch, but they've cored it out a bunch. They've made it a lot thinner. It's actually quite soft. Like this is a lot softer than the regular F50, which is kind of cool. So we'll see how it fits. I'm not a massive fan of these really, really tiny shoestring laces, but it is what it is. And then the Light Strike Pro, I'm a massive fan of the Light Strike Pro as a material. I use it in their running shoes all the time, and it is amazing. And I'm excited to get reacquainted with this sole plate because I haven't worn it in a really long time because I don't like wearing laceless football boots, especially ones that are supposed to be performance oriented, because that's not a thing. Okay. Resale market trends. So despite a lot of new drops, there seem to be only a few resellers who are offering the new, like the brand new stuff under RRP or like under resale or under retail, excuse me. Battery is about to die on my computer. So let's plug this back in. But basically, I'll keep talking as I sort this out. So basically, that means that although there is a lot of situations, new boots coming out for either the tournament packs or other things, it does mean that, okay, I'm just going to, I'm trying to like manipulate this. Give me one sec. Okay, perfect. So although there are new launches coming out for the new colorways, I did mention several weeks ago that when there's a bunch of new launches coming out, particularly quarter 1, quarter 2 of this year, quarter 1 and quarter 1.5, the resellers were almost forced to go away from the really cool reseller stuff, like all the retro boots and all the, anywhere between 2010 and 2020 stuff. And they went to selling the new things because they could they could sort of ride the hype train, et cetera, right? I've talked about that a lot. But it seems like there's only a few of those now because I think people are starting to just not buy through resellers when it comes to the new boots, which is really interesting to me. So we'll see how that continues. But I did want to rate really quickly, at least from my perspective, what those new releases, so those latest colorway drops, how they're going to go on the resale market. And this was out of 5 potential money signs. So 5 money signs being these are going to be way more valuable than what they retailed for. And then 1 or 0 obviously being you are going to find them for free 99 on the resale market pretty quickly. Puma Eclipse pack, $1 sign, no question about it. They're not going to sell for anything more than that. These boots are no longer special because they've come out with 900 colorways since January 30th, and it's just a ridiculous thing. Adidas Shadow pack, Adidas Electric Stealth pack, $1.50 signs, maybe $2 signs. I don't think they'll go for retail, but they're not going to depreciate as much as an Eclipse pack. It feels like the electric stealth pack from Adidas is actually quite cool. I like it. I think it looks decent. It's not a blackout pack, obviously, but it is pretty cool. So I do think that we're going to see those hold value at least a little bit, particularly for the Predator, and then the F50 and the Copa. We'll see. I doubt it, but the Predator for sure. The Mizuno Shadow Gem pack, I'm giving 3.5 to 4 stars. I think these boots are going to be pretty sought after, particularly after how quickly the Ruby Red pack sold out. The updated Morelia 2 was gone everywhere, like ultra sold out. Soccer Shop Kamo sold out in Japan. There were like so many stores that just see you later, not available anymore. And that is really cool because I think people are realizing that brands are going away from K-leather, including Mizuno and Asics. Asics obviously a lot quicker with their new launch of the X-Fly 6 that is now not leather anymore. And so, yeah, $3 to $4 signs out of 5. I think these are going to sell for at or above retail for a little while, particularly because red and black is such a sought after colorway. It's really cool, and red and black always seems to hit for everybody. And then the Under Armour QR code pack, as I mentioned in my section about latest colorway drops, I do think these are going to go way under market because they're so out there, and that because they're not limited or not limited enough, they're just not going to be as sought after because people can just buy them kind of whenever. And those kind of QR digi camo style boots never really hit all that much. I do know that the digi camo version, or the dazzle camo, whatever it was called, for the Tiempo 8, those ones do sell for over retail now, but a Tiempo 8 isn't the same thing as an Under Armour football boot right now. It's just the way it is, and I don't think it will ever be. In terms of notable boots resurfacing, I just wanted to mention one here. Boots Nostalgia came out with a single Instagram story page that had some unbelievable football boots. 3 pairs, Hypervenom 3 Montebelluna in red, which is the more rare version. Would love to add that to my collection. However, it's probably not going to happen at this point, but absolutely amazing. Those also are an 8.5 US, which is too small for me. The What the Superfly 4, which is super cool. They basically combined a bunch of different colorways of Superflies of the past, scrunched them together into one boot, and they look really wild and amazing. And then the CTR Maestri Elite from the 2010 World Cup. One of the coolest colorways. I've got the Superflies here. Would love to add the other 3 Elites to that collection, which is the ones in this reel, the CTRs, Tiempo Legend 3 Elites, and then the T90 Laser 3s? T90 Laser 3s? T90 Laser 4s? 4s. I think it was 4s. I can't remember. Anyway, very, very cool. So Boots Nostalgia, well done. All right, let's move on to section 4, audience questions. Now, you too can ask questions at noahcavanaugh.com/podcast. Preferably more towards the branding and the other stuff, because the boot report will be called something else pretty soon. So just keep that in mind. And we will be moving away from boot content. So questions about boots are not going to be fielded anymore. Go ahead and ask them this week. The boot report will still continue for the next couple weeks, but yeah, just so you know. Okay, so Mehdi asks, what would it take for Mizuno or any other brand to continue using K-leather or bring it back? I think it would take for K-leather prices for brands to get K-leather in. It costs more than synthetic. And so although K-leather is a superior material in a lot of ways, both from a construction standpoint, a softness standpoint, and a structural integrity standpoint, it's a lot more money. And so brands would essentially kind of have to shift away from all we're focused on is profit to how do we listen to and create the best products for the consumer. It would take a monumental shift, and or the K-leather market and all of these uneducated people talking shit about how K-leather is animal cruelty and all this stuff. Yes, in some cases, of course, but for the most part, no, it's not. And y'all have no idea what you're talking about. it would take subsidies from governments to bring it back, and they're not going to do that just for football boots. Like, that's just not how it works. So unfortunately, I think we're at a turning point where we're going to see incredibly small brands like Uno Zero and Pantofolo and some other brands like that are going to stay with K-Leather will probably get more popular right now, because these bigger brands that have always sort of been the K-Leather boot brands, like Mizuno in your question, yeah, it's really sad, but that's just kind of what it's going to take. And I don't think it's going to happen. In fact, I would bet money that it's not going to happen for another, 20 years or whatever, until the point where all of these social activist people who are, like the shit that's going on in California with not being able to import K-Leather and all this other stuff, like, once those people cool off and come down to reality a little bit, yeah, then we'll get there. Okay. Medi also asks, are the K-Leather suppliers in Australia doing anything to convince brands to keep using it? Dude, great question. I honestly don't know. I haven't had the chance to talk to anybody yet. I would imagine there's not much they can do other than potentially lowering sourcing costs for the brands, but again, or offering discounts, or as I mentioned before, like the brand could offer a subsidy, which is basically just a discount. Subsidies are really in the context of a government. However, that's really all they can do at this point, I think, because at some level, there's only so much marketing you can do for an audience that's just not going to buy. Like, you can spend $1 million a month on marketing K-Leather to brand executives and other people, but like, if they are already moving away from K-Leather, it just doesn't make any sense. So I don't really know. I'm just speculating here, but that's a great question. Quake the Brawler asks, what do you think of the T90 Laser IV? Should Nike bring it back? Could it compete with Preds if, per se, the same exact tech were to be brought back? What tech would you want them to incorporate if they were to bring it back a series? Okay. So T90 Laser IV, excellent football boot. I absolutely loved those. Would they compete? They would compete, but let's imagine that they brought them back for the sake of this question. Let's imagine that it wasn't the T90 name. So it was the same exact boot, but it was labeled as something else. It wasn't, they weren't playing on nostalgia, because that, as much as like but I guess Predator is, and that's sort of a main competitor. So this gets kind of complicated, I think. Do I think, okay, to answer your initial question, do I like the T90's Laser 4? Yes, great boot. Do I think Nike could or should bring it back? Honestly, I don't think so. As much as I think it's a great boot, I think that the Phantom 6 is objectively better. The sole plate's more responsive. The upper is sensational. The grip knit is a better version of what the Shot Shield stuff on the T90 series was. And although the T90 series carries a lot of nostalgia, and it was very much a striker sort of power boot, like it was Nike's power boot, I think from a performance perspective, what the Phantom 6 offers is far and away a better football boot. Like, you have a T90 Laser 2 or 3 in your hand, and you have a Phantom 6, and you look at them and you go, these are cool. These bring back memories, but I'm not going to play in these compared to the Phantom 6, because the Phantom 6 is way lighter. It's way more agile feeling. Sole plate's more responsive. Like, technology has increased and advanced. So I love when people are like, they should bring back this one, only in very rare cases. And by the way, if you didn't see that Bootcast podcast episode, I still stand by the fact that Puma should bring back the Evo Power 1.2, 1.3, or the Vigor, because those are actually better than whatever the fuck they're doing with the Phantom, or the, not the Phantom, the Future 6 or Future 8 right now. So good question though. Laser Plus, what's better for speed? Vapor 16 Elite, F50 Plus, or F50 Messi? Okay, the only reason I left this in was to kind of dunk on you a little bit. I don't know who this is. I don't know their first name. This was also a comment in a couple different videos on YouTube from the same person. If you're watching, you know who you are. And I just want to make it very clear to everybody that tools are tools for a reason. Will they increase the likelihood that you achieve the goals that you have for being on the pitch or your characteristics as a player? Maybe by like 2%. maybe by 2 or 3%. It's really not going to make that much difference. The point of me saying that is sort of a calm way of telling you that your boots are not going to make you faster. And I would argue, and this is, I'm being a little sassy here, but I'm trying to make a point. You're probably not that fast. And so it's really not going to matter. In the same way that a person who runs 5-minute 30 per kilometer pace, which is like, 8.5-minute, 9-minute miles, shouldn't be wearing carbon race shoes because it's actually just not good for them. They should wear what's best for their feet in order to run the fastest, keep healthy for them. For you, Vapor 16, F50 Plus or F50 Messi, whichever one actually fits your foot is going to be the thing that makes you the fastest, or that's going to allow you to perform to the best of your abilities. Okay. Jake, in videos you've said about boots that need no break-in time. What are the boots you don't have to break in? There's a couple. Tekela V5 is the newest one on that list. X-Fly Pro 3 is on that list. X-Fly 5 is on that list. The Phantom Ultra, Hypervenom Phantom 3. Morelia 2, Morelia DNA, Wave Cup. This is a tough one. I don't think there is any other ones. Oh, Rotero or David Beckham Preds. GX2. This one doesn't really count, but the F50 leather remake. Yeah. It's not a huge list. So, yeah, but those are all boots that just, even if they're not going to make my top 10 ever boot list, those are boots that I don't need any time breaking in. Oliver, do you prefer the Vapor 16 or Mizuno Alpha 2? I prefer the Alpha 2 because it fits my foot a little bit better, but the Vapor 16 is a very comfortable football boot. They're both really excellent. I just like the Mizuno Alpha 2 because I don't like Air Zoom that. I almost said Air Max. I don't like Air Zoom all that much, and I just think grip knit shouldn't be on the Vapor or the Superfly. Okay, Ross, I'm a young player who recently broke my thigh, and I want your advice to also help anyone dealing with serious injury like an ACL, tear, broken arm, or anything similar. Okay, so you have an injury and you want advice. What would your plan be to start working your way back? Damn, this is a long question. Start working your way back into the game after getting proper care and being cleared to play again. Recover through good nutrition, physical therapy. Most importantly, how would you deal with the fear or trauma of playing again after a big injury? How do you stay motivated? Okay, so basically, how do you come back from injury? Now, the biggest thing that I always tell people is you have to focus on the process. So you have to just dive deep into what are the habits, like we talked about with tempo and what we talked about with prime. You can use both of those frameworks in order to help yourself get back to the field. Now, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not somebody who's going to be able to, work through your trauma, but I do understand that having a traumatic injury, if in fact you did, breaking your thigh, is that a thing? I don't even know. That sounds horrible. But if in fact that is a traumatic injury, I think there are ways of reframing that situation where, yes, you might be afraid to get back on the field because you don't want to be broken again. You don't want to be injured again. However, when you're focused on the process, injuries and setbacks aren't a negative thing anymore. They become, and this is elite, this is like the highest level of reframing. They don't become setbacks anymore. They become another phase and a step in the process, in your process. So I don't want to go too far into this because this question is like 9 questions in one, but focus on your process. Focus on the things you can control. Do you realistically, you don't need my help. You need a doctor to tell you what to do. You need a PT to tell you what to do. And then you need to sit with yourself and ask yourself what you want out of the game. And if getting back and being stronger than you were before are what you want, and that is your goal, then all the rest of this stuff kind of goes away because you're going to know what to do. There are things that you need to do in order to make those things happen. Danny, how did your team handle destructive criticism? Destructive criticism. For example, my teammate yelling, "Are you fucking blind?" to another teammate. We've seen fighting on pro teams. However, surely it can't be conducive to creating a winning team mentality. What is the limit? This is a great question. Okay, so somebody who says, "Are you fucking blind?" Like, blah, blah, blah. I learned from a really young age that constructive criticism was the way to go about it. Destructive criticism is obviously what you're talking about in here, but I think that people who are destructively critical are people who don't have good emotional awareness. And we talked about in Prime, the E is ego management and emotional regulation. They have really, really poor, they're like a 32 out of 100 or a 10 out of 100 on that scale. And so I think there are two ways to go about this. And I think I am being, let's go 3 steps. One is internal first. So every single time you have a situation where, let's say you are wide open in front of goal, somebody decides to shoot from a really stupid angle instead of passing it to you, what do you say? So that's internal. What are the things that you're going to say to encourage the environment where people don't feel shitty making mistakes? That's a situation where I learned really early, people responded to me best, and then the next time it happened, they would just pass it to me if I said something along the lines of, "Hey, I got you next time," or "I'm open next time." "Hey, great shot. I got you. Like I'm open if you need it." Eventually, that player who is going to shoot, if they shoot once and they miss, I am positively constructive. Coach goes, "Sweet. Okay, cool." If he does that again from a really dumbass angle, I don't need to bitch and moan at him because he's going to get bitched and moaned at by the coach and he's probably going to get taken off. Because if I'm in that same position and I'm controlling what I can control, then that's all I have to worry about because that's the coach's responsibility. Second piece of that is how you lead other people. So if somebody says that to you, let the emotion cool off. And after training, be like, "Hey, dude, I don't think that's appropriate. We're trying to build a team environment here, and that's not conducive to a team environment. Period." And just walk away. If that person tries to bitch and moan and do whatever, you just ignore them. And then the third piece of that is when somebody's doing it to you, if you're the person in that position the opposite, you try to shoot from a crazy angle because you think you can score, fair enough. And you could have or should have or would have, whatever, passed it to your teammate. And that teammate says, "Are you fucking blind?" You throw up your thumb and you go, "I got you next time." That's it. It'll diffuse the situation immediately. You have, you meaning Danny, you, but also just you, universal you, everyone's listening to this. It is remarkable how neutral communication, tactical neutral communication is so effective. Like it is a joke how effective it can be. You're not giving them props. You're not being overly positive when they make a mistake. No. You just tell them objective information. "Hey, good effort." Again, I'm not like fanboying him. I'm just saying, "Hey, decent effort. I'm here next time." Or you don't even have to say decent effort. You can just be like, "Hey, I'm here next time. I got you next time. I'm an option for you." That's objective information. There's no emotion behind it. And if that person can't react, well, they're never going to make it to the next level anyway. So you can fuck them off. Okay, Danny, does it make sense to compare the Mizuno Morelia Proto versus the new Mizuno Morelia 2 made in Japan cross-stitch AG? Jesus. I can't tell if this same stitching patterns, they are very similar. The shape is slightly different. So the shape on the Proto feels a little bit more anatomical, even though the sole plate and the last is the same. The Morelia 2 cross stitch, I haven't tried the AG model, but the cross stitch version feels nearly identical with a little bit more structure compared to the regular Morelia 2. And then the Proto feels a lot more kind of free flowing, it feels more like a combo of a Wave Cup and a Rebula as opposed to like Mizuno Morelia 2 category. these are tiny differences. The boots are essentially the same, but they are going to feel slightly different in terms of performance characteristics and feel. Juwan, which is better, Adidas Copa Icon 2 or New Balance 442? Icon 2. Justin, why is Mizuno so slow with making all the different variations of their models more readily available? Still waiting on AG plates for Morelia 2, Neo 4 Beta, and Monorcida. Well, first of all, I think to your point about Morelia 2, Neo 4 non-beta, and Monorcida, you don't really need an AG plate for those boots because they're all conical studs. So I wouldn't chalk it down to Mizuno not being able to produce them because they do have an AG sole plate. I think it just comes down to what Mizuno does from a philosophical perspective and what their why is, which is small incremental improvements over time. And that's all it is. Manny, how fast are deliveries? I'm sort of joking here, but I think this is in relation to the boots that I am putting up on my Instagram and that will be on my website, noahcavanaugh.com/shop in a little bit. I have a whole pile of them. I posted them on Instagram last week. There's a huge pile of boots that I've sort of cleared out. The stuff behind me I would like to keep forever and ever. But there's a large portion of boots that are pretty sweet that I'm going to be putting up for sale just because I'm moving out of the boot game at some point in the next couple months to focus on my big long-term goals. So Brian, I just noticed on the Mizuno site, they don't list the usual washable kangaroo leather in the materials section of the newly announced trio of made in Japan Morelia models. It just says natural leather. Have they already phased out K leather? Not that I know of. I don't think they're done with K leather. I think they would announce that it's calfskin or Wagyu, if you will. So they'll probably go to Wagyu at some point. But I would imagine that it's still going to be K leather for a little while. It would be shocking if that Morelia, if the Mizuno Ruby pack and what was the other one that they just launched called the Shadow Gem, if those weren't K leather, well, I know that the ruby red one is, and I'm almost 100% sure that I am sure that the Shadow Gem is K leather as well. So yeah, I think just chalk it up to like they'll do a name change on the copy of the website, and then that'll like sink in for people like you. And then they'll change it a year or two down the road. All right, guys, that is going to be it for the Boot Report episode number 19. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions about the shift, about things that are going on in my life, feel free to ask them down in the description box below or in the comment section below. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.